hopefully
we might get some mean comments on this one.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get some mean comments on this one. We know. You know. All right. We've noticed that a lot of you are new to our channel, so welcome. If this is the first video you're seeing of ours and you're wondering what this room is that we're in and why we're in a tiny little room.
No, it's a really huge room.
It's because we are currently traveling the country in an RV with our 9 kids. We homeschool our kids, and we get so many questions about homeschooling.
So, and everything else.
But so our last question and answer, we talked about how we can afford to do that. We talked about some other questions we get asked pretty often. But tonight is only going to be about homeschooling. We're going to devote an entire vlog or episode.
This is going to be a 3-hour deal, so just get ready.
No, but just an overview of homeschooling. But before we got there, Mike wanted to mention something.
Okay, so to that point of people asking us about what we do for our job and also about essential oils, because that is what we do for our job, we're going to do a couple webinars about that won't be YouTube videos. It makes it a little bit easier to kind of present that information if you're interested. So there will be below a couple links where you can register for those webinars. We actually did a couple webinars before, but we were kind of new to the whole webinar thing.
Yeah, they were pretty terrible.
We had some technical difficulties, so we're going to do it again this time. It'll be just perfect, no technical difficulties.
Wish us luck.
Right? So if you want to go to those, if you're interested in what we do for a living or about essential oils, just as a general thing,
check out the link.
You can go check out those links and register for that. So
okay, but thanks, Mike.
Yeah, no problem.
On to homeschooling. So what we're going to go over tonight is kind of the classic questions like why, what, when, and how, and talk about that.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about that.
Yeah, let's first start, and I'll start because I think I started down the homeschooling path first.
Rabbit hole.
Yeah. Our oldest is 15, and when he was about 4, so a little over 10 years ago, I was really interested in homeschooling. That was something that really appealed to me. And at that point, I think it appealed to me because as a mom, it felt unnatural to me to send my child away for so long during the day and spend it with somebody that I didn't choose and I didn't even know that well, talking about things that I wasn't privy to. Now, that was just how I felt at that time. Yeah. And I talked about it with my family. I was not homeschooled. I didn't even really know.
I wasn't homeschooled.
No,
this was a totally new idea.
We didn't really even know anybody that had been homeschooled, at least in elementary school. And so my mom kind of encouraged me, as probably I would have in her shoes, was that homeschooling is something you did when the public school system failed you. And so we were in a really good school district, and so we sent him to school. Right. But just really, really wanted him home. And that feeling didn't go away. In fact, it only grew. And so when he was going to go into the 2nd grade, my best friend Marissa of Living a Good Story decided she was going to homeschool. And I'm like, well, if you're going to do it, I'm going to do it. And she kind of always paves the way for me. She went RVing first, and then so you go check out her channel. But, and so that's when we started. And when we started, I think our why was to spend more time with him. I also wanted to be there for those moments when he was learning. I liked teaching. I liked learning. And I think also my why then was to be involved, to help share the world and my worldview with him. I know that some people aren't comfortable with that, but I am. And I really,
sorry if you're not.
Yeah, and I should mention that that our homeschooling journey started a decade ago or more. Yeah. And we have read a lot of books.
Yeah, this isn't new with this RV trip.
Yeah, so. And we have done a lot of research. We've spoken with individuals who are homeschooling. We've watched a lot of videos. We have tried a lot of different methods and curriculums. And so if this is a new idea to you and it makes you feel uncomfortable, I get it. But I also don't care. just to put it bluntly. We're really secure in what we're doing. We're really comfortable with it, and we're really we have seen the evidence of it and the fruits of it. And so I know that you may feel concerned, and that's fine. But I know also that there are some of you out there who are searching like we were. And so that video really is for you. This video is really for you. I want to answer your questions and help you along on your journey towards this. It's not really to answer those who are afraid that we're ruining our children.
We just may be a lot of people. Who knows?
Yeah. So that was our why then, and definitely our why has changed over the years. When I started homeschooling, you weren't completely
Yeah,
on board.
I was not a fan of homeschooling when Megan started this, for lots of reasons, and really it took a while for me to get on board. Really, it was like we've had like 6 or 7 years before I was actually like completely on board. Mm-hmm. There's a couple things that I saw and read. It was John Gotti.
John Taylor Gatto.
John Gotti, who's a mafia.
He was not homeschooled, so we figured we should homeschool our no.
Yeah, John Gatto.
John Taylor Gatto.
Read some of his books, watched some of his talks on YouTube and different places, and it really kind of opened my eyes to how the public education system, what it's doing to our kids. So that was a big deal for me, what he wrote and said. And then another big turning point was when we put our kids back in school. After we brought home Esther and Pearl, we felt overwhelned by everything.
It was a lot of things, but yeah.
There was a lot of reasons, but we decided to put the kids in school for a time, and we didn't really have an end date. Like, we didn't have an idea of like, oh, it'll just be for a year. We just put them in school. And just that experience of seeing the kids in school and seeing kind of how that affected them and how we saw changes in some of them, and just how the schooling system worked at firsthand, our experiences, I was like, I'm done with this. I don't like how this is going. So for me, that's when I really started jumping on board with we need to homeschool, because before for me it was more, this is a chore that we don't need to do, like there's a lot of work or there's a lot of unknowns. I wasn't comfortable with it. So.
Yeah, you weren't necessarily against it, but you saw it as an unnecessary pain.
Yeah, I was like, why are we doing this? This is hard. But really through some different experiences realized that actually it's not that hard, and it's really a better way for us. So
yeah, so gosh, now for us it's a no-brainer homeschooling.
No, there's no question anymore.
There's no question anymore. So our why is like, why not? I mean, like, it's like, why wouldn't we? I guess is a better thing. Why wouldn't we?
Yeah.
It's been so good for our kids. And so let's talk about the what.
So what we do.
Yeah, and so that has evolved immensely.
That's changed a lot. Yeah.
When we first started, when Elijah was in 2nd grade, we did something called K-12. Which is actually just public school. It's a curriculum prepared by the public school system. It's free, which was awesome, really appealed to us. It just seemed so easy to do. And so that was the first 2 years of homeschooling, we did K-12. The beginning, K-12, we did well, and then we just started to be like, this is not serving us so well, so we'll just do little bits and parts. But you
can't really do, because K-12 requires you to report to them, and you really have to stick with that program. It's public school at home.
It is exactly public school at home, and we found that it did not work for us. But it was a great transition for me.
Yeah.
It gave me the confidence that, I don't know, it just gave me a little bit of confidence to then look deeper. And so since then, we have researched all sorts of curriculum. Some of our favorites were the Charlotte Mason method, Thomas Jefferson education. Really liked a lot of the principles in classical education. We loved some videos and things we've read about the Sudbury school system. And eventually we ended up hearing about the idea of unschooling.
Yeah.
When I first heard of unschooling, I thought, that's never going to work.
I thought, like, what did I think? I remember thinking, like, this is some hippie, I don't know what, like...
Where you ruin your kids.
Yeah, where basically, it's how to ruin your children. That was my first
and it's almost like, well, I'm going to homeschool them, but I'm not going to do that.
I'm not going to go that crazy.
Yeah. And, but then we felt like the different curriculums we had tried and the different methods we had tried really weren't serving our family.
Yeah.
And ultimately meaning serving our kids.
Yeah, the kids weren't.
With their personality types, it just
progressing.
wasn't working. It was always like a lot of friction. And I went to a homeschooling store and I actually paid to have like a consultation with somebody there. And she said, if you are constantly struggling with your homeschooling child over a curriculum, it's the wrong curriculum. And I was like, oh. And so she's like, it's not working for you. And she said, you have to understand there's all different types of methods and each is for a different type of learner. And so that started us down that path.
Yeah.
But we've done co-ops. We've done partial like enrollment in public school. We've done, we've hired somebody.
We hired someone to actually
write
put together curriculums for us.
So.
And to kind of oversee what the
we
kids
really
are doing.
wanted a governess. We really wanted a governess.
We're still in the market, so, you know.
Yeah, if you're a governess, you want to, like, travel with us, you know. I'm just saying. No, but ultimately, you were reading Dumbing Us Down.
Yep.
And I read a book called Free to Learn by Pam Laricia. I don't know how you say her last name. Both of these books we'll put in the description down below. But Free to Learn really opened my mind. And it was a really, really exciting book for me to read. And so we read that, and then I said, you know what? Let's try unschooling. Let's try it for a year, like a a school year. And if it doesn't work, or even if it doesn't work 6 months in, if we see like it's just completely falling apart for our kids, then we can jump ship and go back to our traditional curriculums.
Right.
And so we said, let's just try it. And that was 3 years ago, right?
We should explain what that means, unschooling.
Okay, so do you want to explain?
I'll do a little bit.
Okay.
So unschooling is basically you don't tell your kids what they need to learn about. You don't give them things to do, but you let them explore what they are interested in and learn about those things. It's basically a child-led program.
Or education.
It's not even a program, but it's basically letting them explore what they're interested in. And the theory behind it is that they will learn because they're interested in it. And also because it models how we as humans learn. That's how we like to learn. As far as they focus on maybe one thing that they're very interested in and they dive deep into that subject. And then they either stay on that as long as they want or they move on to the next thing. And it does a lot of things for the kids. I think the best thing it does is it teaches them how to learn, which is really what we wanted to accomplish with our homeschooling. I might be jumping ahead of ourselves, but we want them to know how to learn. And we felt like in a public school setting, they weren't being taught how to learn. They were being taught how to fill out worksheets and do that kind of thing. Yeah. But to actually be able to do it on their own would help them learn how to learn.
So what we mean by how to learn is, here's a subject that I don't know anything about. How do I find out about it? How to become proficient in this subject?
Or an expert in it.
Or an
really
expert, yeah.
In it.
And so my kids know how to do that. And that's exciting. And so and Mike was saying, we have 3 things that we really focus on. Sorry, somebody just emailed us. It's one of you, because it's YouTube.
We need to turn off the volume on that thing.
But we want our kids to learn 3 things. Or our job is to teach them how to learn, teach them how to work, and teach them how to be good people. Because we feel like if they've got those 3 things, no matter what challenges life throws at them, they'll be able to figure it out. And so there will be some holes in their education, as is public education as well. There's no education that's
nothing that teaches you everything.
But let's say that one of my kids decided they wanted to be an engineer, and so they decided to go to college, and there was a certain math that they didn't know that they needed to know. Because they know how to learn and they know how to work, they will very quickly read a book on it, watch some videos on it. They'll learn it.
Well, and also because they have a reason to learn that thing, they will learn it that much quicker. Because part of and I don't want to bag on public school too much, but part of the thing that was an issue is that you're learning all these things that you're like, why am I learning this? What do I need to know this? Am I ever going to use this? And so that makes your brain you hit a wall in your brain as far as actually learning it and absorbing it. But if you say, I'm learning this because I need it for this, then you have a reason. You have connections you're making, because you have a reason to learn it.
Okay. Oh,
What
it's
is
the
it?
sound, isn't it? Okay, well,
I
anyways.
don't know.
So that was, that's kind of our what. And so we've gone through a lot of things and ended up with unschooling. And it's been really, really awesome to see where our kids have ended up. And so some of you right now are freaking out. I know it.
You're calling CPS on us.
Yeah,
as we
you're
speak.
freaking out like, oh my gosh, their kids are ruined. They're never going to have a life. They're never going to get a job. They won't get into college, and on and on and on. I get it. But you have to remember
Because our
that,
parents have said the same thing.
no,
To us, by the way.
you have to remember that we have done a lot of research on this. We have done firsthand like research studies on our kids, right? By watching what they respond to. We know what they're spending their time on, and we're really comfortable with it now.
And we didn't come by it lightly either. It wasn't
Yes,
like
these are our children. Nobody loves them or cares about their welfare more than we do. So we're really secure in that. And I'm sorry, but you're going to have to just, if you don't like it, you get to choose what you're going to do with your kids. But let me mention another thing while we're on that subject, college. Now, Michael and I we were raised in a family where everyone went to college.
Yep.
That was what you did.
We went to college.
That's what you did. And it has...
What you looking at there?
I was trying to look up MIT.
Oh, yeah.
And so people say, how are your kids going to get into college?
They
That's
wanna know
really
how they're
their
gonna get into
first
college.
concern. And first of all, we do not believe that is the only path to success anymore.
Right.
We don't. We know that there are many ways that our children can get to success, and that college is something they should do if it makes sense on the path that they're on, right? And so, am I talking too much?
No, you know what? I feel like I'm kind of over here on the edge.
Well, you are. Here.
I feel like it looks like I'm
Little
kind of pushed
Mikey.
off.
I do. And so, yeah, college is something that we think is a good investment if it's a good investment. If it doesn't make sense for what you are planning to do with your life, then it might not be. We are totally open to our kids going to trade school. We're okay with blue-collar jobs. We think there's a lot, we're fans of micro. We think there's a lot of great work out there. But we want our kids to do something where they feel like they're good at it, where they can be passionate about it, and they can be successful at it. Okay.
There's also that book, like, The Zen of, like, motorcycle repair.
Oh,
what
yeah.
was that?
Yeah.
I read that book.
That
and
was
it
good.
basically says, like, this guy who was a lawyer, had been a lawyer for many years, but just hated it, and decided to go and open a motorcycle repair shop because that's what he actually loved to do. And how he talked about how there's this, like, anyways, stigma against, working with your hands. So that's...
We don't feel that way anymore.
We're not completely against that.
Okay, let me just
At
read
all.
you something from MIT. If you're not familiar, is one of the most prestigious universities in the world. It's in Boston, Massachusetts, or near there. And I'm going to MIT's website right here to read you about MIT and homeschooled students. There's a little section. They have a page just for
You can look
homeschooled
it up.
students.
Just read the one paragraph.
They talk about how they accept many homeschooled students and how many of them are very successful at MIT. And they said, one quality that we look for in all of our applicants is evidence of having taken initiative, showing an entrepreneurial spirit, taking full advantage of opportunities. Many of our admitted homeschooled applicants really shine in this area. These students truly take advantage of their less constrained educational environment to take on exciting projects, go in depth in topics that excite them, create new opportunities for themselves and others, and more. And they also mentioned that at MIT, they do not require either a high school diploma or a GED. And I think MIT does not even require SAT or what's the other one?
ACT?
ACT.
I don't know.
So many universities are feeling this way. We've read the application procedures for a lot of universities, and they are very open to homeschooled students and often mention that homeschooled students are some of their best students. And that's because, once again, they know how to learn and they know how to work.
Righto.
So not concerned about that. We will mention Elijah is our oldest. He is doing some college courses already online. He's doing some high school courses online. He is learning a language on his own. He has a business on his own. He knows about so many different subjects.
More than
kid
I know about.
And we feel similarly about our other kids, too. They're more educated, more well-educated than we were, in some ways, at the end of college.
Well, we have discussions with them about topics that I never even touched, especially
until the end of college
or in college. Like,
or after.
you know, they have ideas and they're thinking through things that didn't occur to me to even be thought through when I was in high school. So
yeah,
it's that to me it's comforting to me because, you know, we're parents. We all worry whether we're doing the right thing for our kids, and it's comforting when we have those conversations or I hear about what they're learning about to know they're doing that. So
that's the what, a little bit of the what. What about the when? When do our kids do their schoolwork?
Always. I mean, always and never. I mean, there's not like we say, okay, it's time to sit down to school. They're always learning things. I was talking to Megan before we started to film this, but unschooling is a lot like owning your own business, where you do have the freedom to kind of do what you want to do with your time because it's your own business, but also it sort of rules everything at the same time. So, like Megan talked about with me earlier, we came home from the bowling thing we did today, and it's, what time was it? Like after 5 o'clock, and Andrew jumps on the
immediately
computer.
He was on a computer. I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm watching a video on quasars and black holes. I'm like, okay.
So yeah, it's not like he's not being.
I don't even really know what a quasar is.
Me neither, but it sounds cool. But he's not being told to do that. We're not saying, okay, Andrew, now it's your turn to go watch the video about that. He's just choosing to do it, and so it's not during school hours. Today was actually technically there was no school today for kids because it's a holiday still. So, like.
But that happens on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
I mean, the kids never stop learning, and I'll mention with Andrew specifically. He's 11. I have seen him, I mean, even as far as a year ago or more, he'll walk in and he'll be watching a video on some element of physics, and I'll sit there and listen for a minute, and I can't even understand what they're talking about. And he totally understands. And he also wakes up early each morning. He wakes up before the rest of the family. He often goes running. He will then sit down and write for at least a half hour on his book. He's actually in the editing process right now. He is learning about all sorts of exciting topics. I mean, that didn't even cross my mind at 11.
No.
Never.
So
middle school? I mean, come on.
So the when is always.
And so then, but Esther's not interested in quasars. She loves hair. She spends a lot of her time watching hair videos, but she also spends a lot of her time watching art videos. She's gotten really good at certain aspects of art. And also, I will mention that unschooling is, let's get to the how. Okay. How unschooling works successfully. It is kind of, if you never went to school, it's a little bit easier. Sorry, I keep...
Scoot over.
Yeah. I'm talking.
You just keep talking. It's
yeah.
Cool.
If you know, I have noticed that Esther and Pearl and Daniel, because they were in a different environment and weren't given the same sort of freedom and opportunities, were kind of having to roll back some of the things they learned about themselves and about the world and how to interact with it, so that they can be more effective at unschooling. Because unschooling takes confidence. Yeah,
definitely. That you can do it, and
that you have the freedom to go look into anything you want, and that you can learn about anything you want.
Yeah.
That you don't have to ask permission. I think if you're coming from an environment where you always had to ask for permission, and that there was lots of regimented things in your life, it's a little bit harder. So, but Esther's gotten so much better at it.
Yeah.
And she so we also do use some curriculum still. You know, if we find that there are curriculums that help them in something they're interested in. I mean, Elijah purchased with his own money a Japanese curriculum that is used often in college coursework for Japanese. And it's just, I mean, then he bought an app and made his own flashcards. And then for Christmas, he asked for a Japanese English dictionary. Who asked for that for Christmas as one of the 3 gifts they get? We didn't get it for him, but then he bought it with his own money after Christmas. But
You can pay for that yourself,
and then
kid.
he just decides he spends time on it each day. It's not like, I mean, he's been doing this for months.
Yeah.
And he's learned all about the history of Japan. I mean, and before Japan, it was bamboo or it was PVC pipes. He was obsessed with PVC pipe.
It's a fascinating world.
No.
PVC pipe.
But it's really exciting to see my kids become proficient. That was something we did not have. You know, when you go to college and it's like, what are you going to major in? It's like, I have no idea. Because I don't know. Nobody ever asked me what I'm interested in. They didn't ask. They just told me what to learn.
Yeah.
And so it took a long time for both of us. I mean, you went through so many majors.
Yeah.
When you got to college, what did you want to do?
And even when I graduated, I still didn't know.
Yeah. So, I do think, though, I talk about it. I don't want you to think that, like, it just happens no matter what. I don't think that's true. Strict unschooling theory is that you should not tell your kids to do anything.
Right.
That there should be no bedtimes. You should let them learn for themselves when they should go to bed, and they can eat when they want to eat. And so some kids will play video games all day long and into the night for years. We're not really comfortable with that.
No, we don't do that.
And so, because remember, we also believe they need to learn to work. And so our kids have chores, they have bedtimes, they have schedules. Yeah. So that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that there are some other important aspects. I don't think unschooling would work if you live in the middle of nowhere with no access to the internet.
No, there has to be a way to learn the things you need to learn.
So I do think it's kind of in some ways, a modern phenomenon, and it is also people who have lived a privileged life.
Yeah, it is. Like we're not gonna we can't say that everybody in the world should homeschool and unschool their kids because it just isn't possible everywhere. So we recognize that it is.
Blessing or an advantage.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it is.
It really is. So we're not going to be like we're not that.
We understand that.
Small
we get
world viewed. We know that not everyone can do this.
But if you can, I think if your children have access to information and to a lot of information, libraries, the internet, we had a huge collection of books in our home. And which we don't have now, but we feel like that's
storage.
Okay. Yeah, we kept all of our books.
It's still there.
We felt like that was okay because we were trading it for real life experience in museums.
Right. Yeah.
We're seeing all sorts of natural wonders, and so we've traded that. We're only on this trip for
the
probably
world
a
is
year
our
and a half,
library.
So, yeah, but I think that's really important. But I do think that even though we said that this is something that you have to have some financial advantage or at least some independence. There is a great TED Talk, and I'll put the link down below, about children in India who didn't speak English, who lived in the worst parts of India, and how he put a computer there and just left it free for them to use, and how exciting.
What resulted.
Yeah, it was really, really exciting. But, and then I think one more thing is important. I think access is the most important.
Yeah.
But what would you say the next most important thing is?
Well, modeling what your kids should be doing. Megan and I are always doing things. We're learning things. We're working on things. We don't model just I don't want to call it laziness, but yeah, just sit and watch TV and do whatever. We are actively doing things all the time. So I think the kids see that and they naturally sort of follow that. So that's an important piece, is modeling for your kids, the learning process.
So if you would like them to delve into topics, show them how to do that.
Yeah.
Have a stack of books by your bed all on the same topic, or watch YouTube videos, or try out a new skill or talent, or, go and talk to someone. And really, if you think about how you learn something, and I'll end with this. If I were to ask my friend, how do you learn something? I think we're all going to respond similarly. We're going to say, well, probably first thing I'll do is get on the internet and Google it.
Yeah.
The next thing, you might YouTube it, right? You might call a friend that you know is good at that. And they're like, hey, can I ask you a question? You might get a book on it, look it up in a magazine. And then you'll think about it and read about it for a couple of weeks and then move on. And that's how humans learn. Yeah.
Go even deeper into it.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, like if it's something...
You learn in chunks, though. And so recognizing that, it's like, well, that's not at all what we do in public school. And so we really wanted to bring our education more to the natural learning process.
Yeah.
And that's what unschooling has done for us. Does it mean that sometimes our kids don't know the same things that their peers might? Yeah, both ways. Sometimes they know a bunch of stuff that their peers don't know about. And sometimes...
bunch of stuff.
I just mean, it's not always
Yeah.
equal, and I'm okay with that. All right. We could talk forever about this. But I hope that if you've been looking into this and you've been wondering about it, that we helped you a little bit and that we maybe gave you some new ideas to go and explore. If it freaked you out, we're sorry. But hopefully...
We might get some mean comments on this one.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get some mean comments on this one. We know. You know. But we'll just...
Put yourself out there.
Yeah. But thanks for joining us today. Having the freedom to homeschool and unschool our children has been one of the most exciting blessings in our life. We love it, and absolutely it was that exploration of the world that led us to then take our kids on the road so that we could all experience so much more than ever before. Now, and I should mention, in our last video we talked about how we don't know how we'll go back to normal life. So everybody's like, oh, you're going to be crammed in there forever. We're not planning on living in our RV forever. But there are so many other ways to explore this world than in an RV. So we still plan on ending our RV trip next year. Or this year. It's 2017 now. This year.
Is it? What?
But but we probably won't move back to our house area. We don't have a house.
We don't have a house. Just to answer that question.
Yeah,
we don't have a house.
We don't have a house. But we probably won't move back to our neighborhood and do the same thing that we were doing before.
No.
So, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for checking out the channel. You can see some of those other things in action if you watch some of our other videos, like that
You be
one
the
and that one. No.
judge.
But so, thanks for joining us, and check out the links down below to see some of our favorite books and maybe some of our favorite videos.
Bye.